I thought I'd do a quick video because you always see people ask, is it possible to pursue higher education while active duty? And the answer is yes. You know, there are a lot of different factors that are involved, but you can't really decipher each one. You know, sometimes you just have to take insight from different areas because a lot of people's insight is basically just formed from opinions and experiences. And if you're not getting the right opinion, then it's kind of like we're arguing, you know, whose favorite color is what. My backstory, I'm a recently retired first class petty officer from the United States Navy. I was an SH-1, pretty chill rate. I left the military with 7 degrees, 24 certifications and certs. You know, 3 associates, 2 bachelors, 2 masters. For HR, the APHR, the PHR, Lean Six Sigma, yellow belt, green belt, black belt, my personal training cert, you know, a bunch of other certificates that I had gotten from some schools in different specializations, some other HR stuff. Villanova has a nice Lean Six program, you know, just random stuff. For me, it was about marketability. I did everything for this moment. And you can hear the rain right now. I did everything for this moment. And, you know, it worked out, right? I got out. I wanted to make sure I got right into the civilian sector. I didn't go federal. So I had to be marketable. I had to rebrand myself. There are only a few things to really consider, man. This rain's coming down. Branch of service, you know, your command policy when it comes to tuition assistance and things like that. Your actual job, because, you know, jobs differ. And, you know, some people have more time than others. And then your personal commitment, you know, how much, you know, what you're willing to do in order to pursue higher education or certifications and things of that nature. You know, branch of service and your individual job kind of all ties into one another. Me being an SH, I would have a lot more time to pursue education than someone, say, working on a flight deck or, you know, someone down in the pit. That's why I say everyone's individual scenario is different. So when you see, you know, comments, it's not possible. No, that's not true. It just depends on you. Sometimes your supervisor, man. I remember when I first started pursuing higher education, it wasn't always supported. There was no issue with me or them. It's just sometimes you got to understand. People don't want to see you be great. So you have to make sure you have that commitment and effort and, you know, continue on. My route was a little different. You know, I had used TA when I first started going to school in 2010. I became an efficient student and I would start doubling up on classes and then I would run out of TA and I didn't want any gaps. So I started using my GI Bill. You know, a lot of things they don't tell you is if you're going to a junior college, sometimes the class is like $500, $600. So that's probably what, 7 classes. When you're going for your undergrad, your bachelor's, the classes are like 750. So that's like 6 classes. So if you're doubling up, it's 6 months. Unless you go to a school like where I got my second master's at National, those classes are 4 week long. So you're taking 6 classes and you're out of there. So I started using my GI Bill and, you know, I would fill in those gaps. What a lot of people don't tell you is if you use your GI Bill, and I'm not saying it's ideal, it's just my situation. Some people want to use their post 9/11 when they get out so they can get the housing stipend and the book stipend and things like that. But if you use your GI Bill while you're active and you're exhausted, if you were one of those individuals that put that $1,200 in your first year where you stop paying at the year, we're balling out of control because we get that extra $100 back. You can either get that extra, $1,200 back, they'll tax it, or you can request an additional year of post 9/11. Certifications. In the Navy, we have what's called Navy Cool. And if your specific job, qualifies you to do a certain certification, you can, but you can justify pursuing another certification. Because I was a career counselor as a collateral duty, I was able to pursue the APHR. The PHR, they didn't cover it for me because I wasn't a YN, a PS, or NC. So I paid for that one out of pocket. Always be mindful of school accreditation and type. I tend to stay more on the nonprofit side. For-profit schools, there's some good ones out there too, but just if you don't understand the difference, just Google them. ITT was a for-profit school. No shot at anybody that went there, but sometimes for-profit is geared more towards the program and not the student. Accreditation, always go regionally accredited. And I say that because you may not want to stay within that certain institution. I went to 7 schools. I went from my associates to, 3 associates for 1 school. My bachelor's was, Brandman University, both bachelors. But then my master's, the first one I went to Excelsior, and then I was able to transfer to National. You want those credits to transfer over. So if you're going somewhere because it's an easy program or your buddy said, hey, go here, man, they take all your credits. Just be mindful of that. Because if you go in and say you got your associates from an institution that wasn't regionally accredited, and you try to, transfer that in, you might have to petition. And anybody that knows, doing a petition can be some dreadful paperwork, because you're pretty much saying, hey, this is the reason I pursued this at this degree, but I'm willing to work my behind off so I can get this additional degree here. Please accept me in. So moral of the story, if you want to pursue a degree or education while active duty, you can. Will it always be supported? No, but it has nothing to do with that individual, man. If they have a problem with you pursuing education, that's their issue. Just make sure you have the commitment and the drive to stick with it. Now, it's about focus too, man. In high school, I was a CD student, so I kind of carried that on before I decided to start education, when I could have started sooner, because I said, man, if I sucked in high school, I probably would suck in college. And that was just bad logic, Just be willing to stick with it. In the Navy, I always tell individuals this, man. If you can learn to sleep in a freaking bookshelf for 6 to 9 months, you can learn to become an efficient student. And, on the outside looking in now, like I said, I just recently retired, found employment. Retirement check is good. I'm not saying don't study and do what you need to do to advance, because that, pretty much helps you more when it comes to retirement check. But the education is important. Here's a scenario. I had an interview about 4 or 5 months ago, and the lady, after the interview, I asked her feedback, and she said, I'm glad you took advantage of education, because it boggles me how a lot of individuals in the military, they have access to free education and certs, and they just don't take advantage of it. So I didn't, I'm glad that I made the decision, because I didn't want to be that individual. So, that's just my take on pursuing higher education while active duty. Is it possible? Definitely.